what you saw from the Lions is a scary team.
No.
A scary team that believes they can win a Super Bowl.
So I had already convinced myself that the Eagles are going to beat the 49ers because the Niners will get hurt. They always do. The Cowboys showed their flaws last week. Now I got to deal with the Detroit Lions, Maggie. The Detroit Lions, who've won one playoff game in 66 years. All of a sudden, they have the best offensive line. They have a superstar in Aiden Hutchinson. They have a superstar tight end in Sam Laporta. And Jared Goff looks like an MVP. This is not good. And I am sorry, they're going to storm through that NFC North and could even get home field.
You know what's, I think, scary about the Lions? As I said, they believe they can win, right? I think that's the biggest part when you're dealing with franchises who have these woe-begone histories, right? Like when you talk about teams like the Jets and the Vikings and my Buffalo Bills and the Lions, right? This feels like they've completely exercised all of that loser energy, all that negativity, you know, the things that pop up to bite the Cleveland Browns. We all know who the snake-bitten franchises are. They feel like they've put that all behind them. No one is even thinking about it. That's number one. It makes them dangerous. Number two, I mean, they have all the makings of a good team. Lines that are good, offensive and defensive, that they've been building while they've been getting these high draft picks. Their weapons are really good and multiple. And I'll have to admit it, I got to give credit to Goff. When he was on Hard Knocks and didn't know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, I was out on this guy. I'm like, you have to know where the sun sets. That's got to be a given. Apparently it doesn't. The guy is throwing dimes out there, and they took advantage of a Green Bay team that was standing in their own way last night for a lot of different reasons, very banged up, and they put their thumb right on the Green Bay Packers.
The real thing that scares me is the run game with David Montgomery, who I've been disappointed in fantasy-wise many, many years now. He averages about 4 yards a carry, but they're so physical, and that's really, I think, the key to the NFC. The Eagles will run all over you. The Niners will run all over you. Yep. The Cowboys don't look like they're ready to run all over you, which is why I maybe put them third right now. But the Lions, when Green Bay came back in the second half, made it 27-17, they just put the hammer down on the run game, and I think that's going to be the key for them to get a really gaudy record and be dangerous. That's that to neutralize Micah Parsons, to neutralize all those pass rushers in Philly. Yep. You got to control the clock. And I think Detroit and Dan Campbell can do that.
And I think that they're built for whatever weather. I know they play indoors, so if they get home games, it's going to be fine. But if you do have to play bad weather in Philadelphia, I mean, that's something I don't even think would be a second thought.
Well,
I do not.
I don't know about that. Did you see they have those funny graphics on Amazon Thursday night? Jared Goff's been terrible on the road since he got to Detroit. That's why last night was a little surprising.
But what you're saying about the run game.
Yeah, but it was nice last night. Yeah, the run game. But if you know that all they have is right, I don't think Detroit wants a bad weather game.
Listen, this is all he's doing, really. When you're finding Laporta, the tight end, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, like when those are your two biggest weapons in terms of the pass game, you're not being asked to be, you're not throwing 40 yards down the field for those guys. For Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's all over in the middle of the field, everything, and your tight end's your tight end.
Well, I mean, Goff, the one thing we know he can do is throw a
40-yard
ball.
He doesn't have to do that.
As well as anyone. But, yeah, that's true. I think he can do that if he's protected. The key is you got to protect Jared Goff. He's not going to be, Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson running around. Laporta is interesting. I heard Adam Schefter's podcast this week. Don't ask me why I was listening to it. It's not exactly the most exciting podcast.
Okay.
But he's
shots fired at Schefter.
No, I like Adam a lot, actually. Anyway, he started out the podcast
a snooze fest.
with the most. No, because he interviews somebody, but he starts off with 2 points about last week's play. And the most bizarre thing, he started out with, he goes, people around the league are telling me Sam Laporta is the most exciting rookie to come into the league. I'm like, what? Is that true? The tight end for the Lions? Last night, two plays in, boom. And he can block, too. Taylor Decker is mauling up there. Yeah, so what do you think, Maggie? Should I be nervous? Because I got to think this out. When I look at my Eagles in the NFC picture, who do I have to focus on and really root against?
You want me to tell you what you should be worried about 3.5 months before you have to worry about it? Yes, you should be worried about the Lions. I think this is an absolutely real thing. The Packers are not ready to win right now. I mean, last night they're banged up on the offensive line, they've just got issues. They've got issues, and Jordan Love, I don't even know how you really evaluate him last night.
Yeah.
He didn't have actually, that's not true. There were moments when he did have time to make a play and couldn't do it. I almost wanted to get him off the hook for the first interception because it got tipped up in the air, but he basically threw it right to the middle linebacker.
Wait.
I don't know if I can take him off the hook for that one.
There was not a single play in the first half where he had time and to miss something. There was not a single play where he was pressured every single time he
had
passed.
Hands in his face at all times. I did see, there were a couple plays here and there where he did have time, but then those are more coverage sacks where guys were being covered down the field. This is just going to be very much work in progress. Actually, last night, Matt LaFleur, Stu, if we can hear from the Packers head coach, getting a little testy at reporters after the game.
What do you think happens when you have to cause a first half like that where you got nothing?
We suck, Pete. We got our ass kicked. If I knew, it wouldn't have happened.
Matt, they didn't blitz until the
That's a
last.
BS question, man.
Why couldn't you guys protect, do you think?
It wasn't good enough. They whipped us. They manhandled us. Again, if I knew the answer to that, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, not a BS question. It was BS what you put on the field in the first half. And that's what is BS. To take it out on reporters, you got to be better than that. You get it handed to you. There was nothing controversial unless you want to talk about the Quay Walker jumping over the line on the field goal, which they go to commercial break. Everyone at home, all of us think, hey, they just scored a field goal. Maybe the Packers can get back in this thing, come back from commercial break, realize that Quay Walker's jumped over the line, gives the Lions fresh set of downs. They end up scoring a touchdown. That made it a 3-score game and put it out of reach. Maybe you can talk about that, but for LaFleur to get testy with a reporter afterwards, you got to be better than that if you're the head coach. You just got to take it.
Question.
Yeah, BS question. What are you, Bryce Harper?
Yeah, it's funny. Matt
Clown question, bro.
That's a BS question.
I love clown question, bro, is one of the great lines.
It is a great line.
Locker room. If LaFleur had as much charisma there. But, I hate to say it, what is Matt LaFleur without Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah,
that is a big question. Although I think Love has had his moments. It really helped when Detroit stopped rushing him in the second half. They're like, all right, we're going to go to prevent. Just don't score too fast. Quay Walker is an interesting cat. Because remember, last year he got ejected for pushing a member of the Lions medical staff.
Yep.
And I remember
at week 18.
LaFleur actually comforted him after I think he was crying. Walker was. And LaFleur, they showed the camera, he was not happy last night. He went over. Quay Walker ruined the field goal by jumping over the line and hitting the lineman. And then LaFleur was chewing him out on the sideline. Quay Walker is probably, the funny thing is, it was his glow night. He became the star at number 7. He was tackling everybody. He looked strong.
He had 19 tackles last night. 10 of them were solo tackles.
Yeah, he might be the best player on that defense, but he sure seems interesting. Like, something's always happening with him.
Yeah, and LaFleur afterwards was like, no, it's our fault because we've got to make sure he knows the rules better, and tried to protect him a little bit there. But, terrible mistake that ended up costing them. I don't know if they would have come back anyway. The Lions always felt in control of that game outside of that one nice Jordan Love and Packers drive where they got the touchdown and got the 2-point conversion. But beyond that, it was all Lions. Yes.
Did you notice Aaron Jones, the running back for the Packers? Have you ever seen a tackling dummy like that? He got flipped upside down. He got hit in the head. He got hit everywhere. Their run game got nowhere. Even though Aaron Jones was questionable all week, came back. I'm a little bit worried about that offensive line. Just got no push on run and didn't protect at all. So it seems like the NFC North is kind of done. Because Minnesota's 0-3. The Bears are one of the worst teams in the league. And it doesn't look like that Packers team is close right now to the Lions.
Okay, so I think the poll question today is, are the Lions a Super Bowl contender? Because Perloff is nervous.
No, I still think the Eagles can beat them if it's in Philly. I also think San Francisco is a real problem. And I think Dallas is a problem. I think the NFC is better than people thought coming in. Remember that?
Top heavy, but good.
Yeah. Remember that storyline that, I don't know, the bottom of the AFC is not that great either. The AFC South is.
Well, I think still a lot more to be determined. I think we kind of know the good teams and the bad teams in the NFC. I think the AFC, there's still a little wiggle room there. Like, are the Jags actually good or bad? We're not really sure about that. What's going on with Pittsburgh? What's going on with Cleveland now with some updates for Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, but the Commanders beat the Denver Broncos. That's all. So I think the bottom of the AFC.
The real bottom is bad.
Yeah, I think. But
I thought you meant the fringe playoff team.
Well, I think the AFC South is still the worst division. Even as bad as the NFC South is, I think the AFC South is awful. Well, we'll see. Maybe your Jags come back this week.
To the bottom.
But anyway, I do think that the Lions are definitely in that mix in the NFC. Here's how I'm hoping it plays out. I hope they draw San Francisco early on. San Francisco and the Lions beat each other up so badly that they limp into the link back to the Super Bowl. That's the plan, Nagy.